Do you support Trump?
I do. I have for a long time.
All right.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
I have a simple question. I've seen you off. I'm much, much older than you, but I've seen you off and on, and you do make some valid points. And I think everything you say, you have the right to have your voice, and that's what the world is about. But here's a question I've always wanted to ask you. What has kept you from joining the military? Why did you not join the military?
Never felt a calling. Not very physically inclined to do so.
Okay, you're honest. Okay, I
I
get
got
it.
a degree
Okay.
in economics. I specifically am more like math oriented, things like that. That's what comes easier to me. Never had a want to like join the military in my life. I think that service for your country isn't specifically just through joining the military. I think that you can provide service to your country through anything, really, that provides a benefit to your society or makes your society better, whether it's community service, mutual aid,
Hmm.
working in your communities to help people around you, volunteering, uh, working in politics and trying to make the world a better place by trying to get people involved and critically think and things like that. There's so many different things that can specifically benefit our society and provide service. I don't think you have to specifically go into the military to provide service to your society. I think you can provide service to any means. Like for example, I think nurses and doctors and people who work in the medical industry, right, for example, are providing a service to our country, but yet they specifically aren't like joining the military in every instance, right? There are some that work in the military, but most don't.
No, I agree with you. And being being married to someone who was medical during Desert Storm and have a desert, they'll tell you how old I am. I have a son who's a Desert Storm child, so that'll give you my age bracket right there. Um, I have a hard time when I hear people start talking about what's happening right now. We do not have ground troops there now, but just the patriotism. Do you consider yourself very patriotic with do you consider yourself a patriot for our country?
Yeah, I would. But I also think that includes like calling out when people who have done bad things in positions of power are in those positions of power. I think that's a fundamental aspect of loving your country is calling out your country's leaders when they do wrong.
And I agree. And I had a lot of that prior to Trump coming back into office. So I do agree with that. I mean, I think speaking your voice is important, absolutely important. I think there's a lot of things that you and I disagree with, but then there are some things we do agree with. For example, what you just said. So I think it's sad the gentleman before he was pushing along, and then he made us look really stupid when he said that the Ukraine war was over. So that was embarrassing. Um, so that didn't look good. Yeah, I just have a hard time when I hear people come on sites like this or whatever, start talking and say things about what's happening with Trump. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter who your president is. You should always be backing your president. I get they have flaws, but we do live in the best country in the world. No matter how bad things can be, we still live in the best country. Do you agree with that?
I don't think that we're designated the best country, and I think that holds us back from actually like doing things that would better our country. And I'll tell you things that we could do that could catch us up with the rest of the world,
Wait, wait,
but
can
that I
I
don't think that
stop?
we've
Can
done.
I
But
ask you a
one,
question
one
though?
thing, one thing before you do is I wanted to say
Okay, go ahead.
I
Go
don't think we
ahead.
should always back the president, and I think that many people that come from countries where they have tyrannical leaders will tell you that's not something that you should do, especially those that are from Russia, right? They'll tell you that what they see with Putin is that you definitely should not trust every single person that gets into the person of the political office, right? And also back them, right? Because that could then mean you end up with someone like Putin or a wannabe Putin.
Okay, let me think how I'm going to answer. Okay. Okay, let me back up. For example, for me, when I hear our leadership in the past go into other countries and apologize and apologize and apologize, that bothers me. I do not ever want to hear us going into other countries and apologizing for who we are. That's kind of what that is not good.
I
That
very
is
much
not
disagree with you.
strength whatsoever. Oh, it's not strength whatsoever to go into
It
another
is.
country and apologize for who we are.
Yeah, it is strength. It is strength. Like for example, if you're in the context of a loving
Not at all.
dynamic, like think about this in a relationship, right? Does it take strength to admit that you've done wrong to your partner?
But we're not talking about love. We are talking
Well,
about
yes, yeah,
strength of a country.
we are.
We're not
Yeah,
talking
because
about love.
like think about it this way. In order for us to be able to acknowledge that we've done wrong, in order to make ourselves better, that takes strength. I don't think it's a weakness to acknowledge that we've done wrong and to say that we're on a different path than what we were historically speaking. It's not a weakness to say that we want to do better than what we've done through history. It's not a weakness to hold ourselves accountable and to do better. Based upon that argument, we would never progress.
Okay, and I do hear what you're saying, but I'm going to have to say I still never, ever would I ever say, I would never go into another country and say, we are the strongest country. We don't have people begging to get out of America. We have people begging to get into America. I don't see where we have people
I mean,
clawing
you
and
do have
crying,
both.
trying. Okay, in my lifetime, I'm not aware of that. Okay, that's me. I can't argue you saying that because that's a place where you're coming from.
Well, I
I
do just want to say
just,
there are a lot of people that don't like being in America that are living in
but
America
yet they
and
don't
would wish
leave.
to live
But
in
they
another
don't leave.
because it is
They
hard to go
never
to
leave.
because it is hard to go to other countries, right?
And why is that though? Why is it hard to go to other countries?
Because of costs, because of the fact that there are immigration
Okay,
processes that you have to go through.
there you go. The immigration, and then we're back to
Yeah.
that. But I'm not going to
But
open
that
that can of
doesn't but
worms.
that doesn't mean that there isn't a system to say that we should make our legal process go significantly quicker. There's also, by the way, language barriers that exist, right? Like for
Hmm.
example, if you want to go to certain countries, right, in the context of Europe, you might not speak the language. You'd have to go learn it. So there's also structural issues, or not structural issues, but issues in terms of learning, right? Certain things that would be relevant as well.
But if you want out bad enough, like some people have flip flopped, if you want out of a
What about
country bad
family?
enough, you will get. I'm going to say again, though, if you want out bad enough, you will find a way to make it happen. And that's what we have seen happen to us. And just to give you an idea, I live in the Austin area, and you just saw what happened in Austin, did you not?
Yeah,
You know what
it's
just
really
happened,
sad.
right?
Yeah, I
It
did.
really was. It is. Because a lot of us in Texas, we of course, as you know, we started all that way before anyone else in the United States started the flood. And again, not going backwards, but what I'm saying is, you know, there's more people trying to get it. I'm just saying, if you want something bad enough, you will do whatever it takes, and you will claw, and you will do, and you will fight it to the death. But no, I do appreciate you. You're young, and I see that you're out there and you're having people think. Obviously, the gentleman before, because he didn't do his research before he came on. So I think you're making people think. I think you and I are not on the same page, and I think sometimes age can have a lot to do with that too. I am going to say that. Um, I do live in Texas. I'm a Baptist conservative woman, and that's never going to change for me. But I think what you're doing is important. So I give you a gold star for that. I do. And I don't know if many conservatives will come on here and say that to you, but I think talking is important. And I appreciate the fact that you're out there and you're making people think and you're making people argue it with you. If they argue, talk, whatever, I call it talking. Too many people aren't talking. And a lot of the younger people fight just as many as the older people fight. So people need to talk about this, and they need to get off their chest, and they need to get out there and learn. And again, example is the gentleman before me. So keep it up, keep doing what you're doing. But I would say always just think about it, think about it. I think what we're doing right now is we have someone who's finally has, this is my view, someone who has finally stepped up and is saying enough is enough. He is trying to protect the next generations. Nobody else will do it. And he's finally stepped in and said, I'm going to take care of this, and let's whoop them now and get it done. And like I said, in Austin, this just keeps happening and happening and happening. So that's pretty much all I have. I don't
So
want to keep taking up all your time.
you're not taking up too much time. I typically will have people up for an hour, so you're totally fine. The point I would want to
Oh,
say in response to that is that I don't think that this is him saying enough is enough. He wants to address the conditions that exist there. I don't think he cares much about the conditions that exist there. I think he's more focused about specifically trying to distract away from the Epstein files, like genuinely, because he has realized that it's a huge story on him specifically, and the fact that his DOJ is scrubbing certain interviews associated with allegations targeted towards him is clearly concerning, along with the fact that they were redacting co-conspirators' names and protecting other individuals involved. So I think that is a main reason why they're trying to engage in conflicts like this, because it gets us distracted and talking specifically about all of those things, right, that are happening in the media and the war and everything that's happening, rather than talking about specifically what Donald Trump does has done in the Epstein files. And I also just want to address the fact that um, this is against everything he ran on. He ran on no new wars, that he wasn't going to put us in any wars, and that he was the peace president, and then is advocating to put us at war now. And it seems like Kamala Harris clearly has advocated against that war. So it seems like in this circumstance that Kamala Harris was the one that wasn't going to put us in war and is the peace president.
Okay, and I do have answers for those three. Give me just a second. As you were saying, that was going through my mind. Okay, I truly, and this might be an age thing again, I do not see, well, oh God, there's so much I could say. Honestly, the whole Epstein thing, that doesn't, I just do not, that's ridiculous. No, not at all. That there's too many people. Think of all from A to Z, all the people that are on that list. If that was the case, all those people right now would be running for their lives, thinking they're in all kinds of trouble. Think of all the people on that list. Just because your name is somewhere somehow does not mean you're guilty of something. And also remember, he was, and it has been stated that he did make a phone call and said there's something going on. Someone needs to look at that. Where else on any list have we had it said or stated anyone else called, even Clinton, who just went through his whole series of interviews? Where was it stated anyone else called and said what Trump said to the authorities? Something's going on here. Maybe I missed that. Have we heard that from anyone else on that list from A to Z? Anyone else on that list have they said that?
After Epstein was arrested. So that's one thing to take into consideration.
That was before he was arrested. That was before
it was actually
was arrested.
after he was arrested.
Okay, well, I wish I was quick enough to find that for you, but that's not what I had found because I was ready for that with someone else who made that comment to me, and I wish I could find that. So I can't prove that. You'll have to take that. That's a hearsay for you then. But that is not what I had found. I had found that on something, and also I had heard, doesn't even matter because I can't prove it at the moment. But who else from A to Z, has there been anybody else that has, I forget what year it was, but it was not after that, is what I understood. It was not after that. And no one is talking about that. There's only one station, we won't go there, but only one station who's even come close to even discussing that. And they've gone over that many, many a time, but nobody else is discussing that. Well, of course they're not, because they don't want to put that out there. Okay, so that was one. But when it comes to, you said Kamala, right?
Can I ask
With
you a
all
question?
her, I don't trust it. I don't trust anything with her. I mean, we all know that's, for me, at least for me, that's craziness. Her and Biden, that whole thing. I felt sorry for him. Anyone that would have put him in that position, that's a whole fiasco. I felt sorry for them. I'm grateful to God that we even survived that whole administration. But that's just me, the way I feel. There's no facts behind it because that would take all day. But that's just me. That's a feeling.
Okay, so
I'll just stick with that.
I have a question. If Bill and Hillary
Sure.
Clinton can testify in front of Congress, why doesn't Trump?
Maybe he will. I can't answer that. I cannot answer that. Maybe he will once all this is said and done. I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know. I can't speak for people. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with all that. I do not know what's going to happen with all that.
Okay.
That I have no answer for. I mean,
Here's
I won't
my
sit here
point:
and
is
lie.
that
I don't know.
people on the left and on the right, regardless of their political affiliation, should be held accountable if they're implicated in these files. And the thing that I'm saying is that Donald Trump has people in his administration, such as Howard Lutnick, that went on the island. There's pictures of him on the island with Epstein, right? In situations when he said he was with his family just going there for dinner, which clearly his family was not seen. He was not sitting down for dinner. He was hanging out with Epstein. And there's a picture of that. And he was on the island, and Donald Trump has not fired him. Why would Donald Trump not fire someone who he's known has been on the island and lied about him being on the island?
Okay, so he was on the island. So were a lot of other people on the island. So I'm sorry. So ask me that again. A lot of people were on the island. Who was
Yeah.
that? I don't even watch The View, but I saw on whatever, one day I was flipping the channel, I saw her begging everyone to understand why she was on an airplane with him and she had gone here. All these people, are coming out of the woodworks from A to Z again. There's that laundry list of people. Here's why I was on the plane
We're not just
with
talking
him.
about on the plane. Trump was on the plane.
No,
We're
no, no.
talking
I'm
about
saying
on
that's
the
the one I
island.
heard.
I think that we need to be clear here what island this is. This is an
No, I hear you.
island that Epstein literally notoriously used to. So let me just clarify. I think anyone that went to this island that's an adult right, that's knowingly going there, that's not a victim or a survivor, I think that
Mm-hmm.
they are obviously knowing what's going on there. I don't
I
think that
can't,
there's
well,
anyone
I
that's
can't
innocent
speak
that
for
went
it. Like I
there,
said,
that's an
no, and I
adult
hear
that
you.
intentionally went there and isn't a victim or a survivor, specifically went there with good intentions.
No, I have no answer for that. I do not know because I wasn't there. I don't know these people, and I wasn't there. I wasn't there. But I also know how many people, you or I, how many of us have ever been accused of something that we know we haven't done. I'm not just saying I'm saying in the big picture. How many of us have ever been accused of something and we know we didn't do it, but yet we still have been accused of it? Just step back. Sometimes we have to step back and say, I know I didn't do that, but yet I'm still being accused of it. And there's no way to prove it. There's no way
It's
to
not about
change
being
someone's
accused. There's a
mind.
there's photo evidence of him being there.
Okay, I'm just saying. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I
We know
don't
that
have
there's
any, I
there's
can't speak
literally
for other
photo evidence
people.
of him there.
No, I hear you. I hear you. No, I hear. I don't know. I can't speak for people. I don't know why that stuff's happened. I don't know why someone didn't do this or someone didn't do that. I don't know. That I do not know. I can't speak for other
Well, it's like
people. I
there's got
can't
to be
speak for other
accountability
people's
for these things. I
actions.
think it shows weakness that we can't hold individuals who have done things like this accountable.
Sure, sure. No, and I agree with you 100%. But I will say what I can say right now is with everything going on in the world, if I had to have someone do something to take care of my family, and what I refer to Trump is as a bulldog. That's what I always say. He's a bulldog because most people will fear him because he's already shown when he puts a red line in the sand, cross it, I'll get you. He usually gets you. Not the typical, what was the word? Don't, don't, don't from the last administration. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying that was always their comeback. Don't didn't do anything. Don't just continued. Don't just meant
Well,
don't,
I
don't.
think
They
you're
didn't
I
mean a
think you're not
thing.
looking at the things she did, right? Like for example, the bipartisan border bill that they were working with Republicans in Congress to pass, that Donald Trump called for people in Congress to undermine, and then said blame it on me if the border bill fails, and then hasn't got the border bill done that he said he would get done through legislation.
Well, I will tell you what's the number now. How many people are coming over the border right now?
So just because there's less people coming over the border does not mean the border is more secure, necessarily speaking, in the manner in which we'd like it, right? So I do have a few things to address in terms of that. One
Sure.
is that there were less border crossings at the end of the Biden administration than there were at the end of Trump's first administration. Do you
I
think
will
that the
differ with
border
that
that
since I
Biden
live in
inherited,
Texas.
do you think the
Here,
border, do you think the border
well,
Biden inherited, right, was less secure than the border that he handed over to Trump?
so let me, and again, I say this kindly. A lot of the time, the last couple of years, well, before, let me just say this. For those of us who live in Texas, and for those of us who are local news, a lot. What state are you in? May I ask?
California.
Oh,
I live
okay.
in LA.
Okay. So, all right. So you have a different, of course, with you have a different life than what Texas does. You know how that goes. We've inherited a lot of people. I say this respectfully. We've inherited a lot of Californians. So we have that group that have transformed. They are like, we love
There's a lot
Texas.
of
We love
people
it
who
for.
live in California from Texas, you know that, right? And from the
I
Midwest.
know.
I'm
I've
from the
heard that as well.
Midwest.
I have.
I grew up in Iowa
100.
and I moved to
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I've heard that as well. I get it 100%. And now we have a lot of people from California after being here a few years. They just showed statistics, and I can't remember that number, that have left to go back to California. So, you got that flip flop thing happening. But I will say, before anyone else in the United States really realized how crazy it was, we were already enduring the crazy, just the invasion of people that were coming. So when I hear people say these numbers, and I hear you say these numbers, I just really don't believe any of them because here in our state, um, I personally know people that live down, down, down on the border that have the ranches and so forth. That their houses, they had people breaking into their houses. They had people taking their horses. They had people just coming in, taking their stuff, stealing their cars. But this has been going on for us for many, many, many years. Along the border before it became a major ordeal. It wasn't until our governor decided to let's start sending people across the United States so people understand this is what we live with on a daily basis. So I only bring that up to say sometimes I hear these numbers and I hear you. they're not really right as far as we're concerned because we've dealt with this for many, many years.
So,
Many,
undocumented
many years.
immigrants are multiple times as likely to commit property crime, violent crime, drug crime in the country compared to natural born U.S. citizens. Actually, border cities have disproportionately less crime comparative to the rest of the country. So, although you're fed this propagandistic narrative that immigrants specifically are committing crime at vastly higher rates than natural born U.S. citizens, that's not true. I understand that you might see and have personal experiences with the fact that some people who have come to the country undocumented have committed crimes. That does not allow for you to generalize this is the case, and that's why we use statistics and studies and evidence in order to be able to factor in what is true. Because although you see immigrants committing crime, the rest of the country sees U.S. citizens committing crimes at higher rates, and people in border cities that don't have the same bias as you see the exact opposite as well. They see less crime in their country based upon statistics and based upon what they see in their daily life, and they don't see immigrants committing crime in the way that you do. They see immigrants, right, coming to this country, building businesses, working for a better life, right, treating people with respect and dignity, a lot of which the president isn't done, right?
Well, I hear you, but I'm just going to tell you when you're here, that's just not the case. When you live somewhere close to the border, that's not the case. That's just, it's reality is not, that's not the reality. And I do hear what you're saying. It's not the reality. It's not the reality. It's not the reality. It is not the
Saying
reality at
no
all.
isn't a response to my point because I told you statistics justify that their border cities have less crime compared to the rest of the country. And there's a
That's just
bibliography
not
in my
true.
bio.
It's just
There's a
not.
bibliography in my
I'm
bio that
not
shows that
fault.
undocumented immigrants are multiple times as likely to commit violent crime, drug crime, and property crime compared to natural born U.S.
That's
citizens.
well, okay, but I'm just telling you, you can talk to most people, you can talk to a lot of people who live where we live, and they're going to tell you that's just not, you should watch our news. You can watch our news. You can, oh, I mean, like I said, again, I'm not the type that sits and argues. I talk. I never argue with people, but I'm just going to say that's not the reality we live in. It's not
I,
the reality we live in.
are you willing to question that? Because it sounds like if I give you evidence, statistics, and facts that justify my argument, you're willing to dispute it with just no. Because
Well, I
again, I
mean,
understand that you've had a personal experience where you've heard a certain type of narrative, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that
it's not a
narrative is
narrative. It's
correct.
people that we actually know. It's people that
I understand, and
it's
I've
down on
known.
the border. But let me say that. Well, here's where the whole thing got started, though. And again, I'll go with that. Here's what I was going to say, though. But with, as I call Trump Bulldog, it has slowed down a lot. It has slowed down. We don't have the chaos. We don't have these things occurring. Now we have a whole different thing happening in our state, a whole nother thing happening in our state. I won't even open that can of worms, but we have a whole nother thing happening in our state that we're having to deal with and endure. But so what I say is, for me and for my family and for my friends, for us, we have for the right person in the office getting done what we want done. And I'm sure this is going to make a lot of people mad. It might make you mad too, but we're getting done what we want done right now. And you vote what you need done. You vote what is going to protect your family, just like you voted for what's best for you, best for business, best for the. So what's being done right now is what we wanted to see done. And I guess that's the best way to say it. So again, I say to you, because with you being much younger than me, the conversations need to continue. So I hope other people like myself will come on and they will talk with you and they will say there are the good, there are the bad. There are things that have happened that maybe we don't all agree with that he's getting done, but for the most part, absolutely, he's getting done what we want to see get done. I just feel like instead of all the negative, 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 when he does something right, he should be applauded for what he's done right. Don't you believe that? When he does something good, he should be applauded for what he's done good. And I don't hear
I just
people
think it's
doing that.
very unlikely that he's going to do something good because a lot of what he's doing is horrible. I think that he
You
needs
don't
to be
think he's
called
done
out.
anything good for you and your
I think
family?
that if we're going to hold that standard to be true, I think that we need to actually hold him accountable when he does things that are wrong. And I think the
Well,
point
and
you
you
made
do, because
earlier
I know
that we
you
shouldn't
do.
be apologizing to other countries was actually showing that you don't believe in that standard yourself. And I do,
I
but do
don't
you do that? Does your side do that? Is the real question.
I just do. Hey, I was never an Obama fan. Ever would I have been. But I respect the office. I've always respected the office. Always have I respected it.
Trump
We
didn't.
have a
Trump literally said that he was born in Africa and wasn't born in the United States because there, even though
well,
there's
I
a birth
can't,
certificate
hey,
of him
but I
born in the
can't,
country.
but see, I don't sit and nitpick. That's what I guess that's what I'm getting back to. I don't just sit there and just nitpick every little single thing. I look past some of the little time that, okay, we're not perfect. You and I, neither one of us are perfect. We're going to have our flaws. There's going to be things we mess up on. There's going to be things. Nobody is going to be perfect. Kind of like when, well,
I don't think we're
back
looking
the
for
very,
perfection. I think we're looking for a basic standard. I think there's a difference
no, and I
between
hear you.
looking for
I hear you.
perfection and having basic standards.
No, I hear you. And some people's standards are different than other people's standards. But I can remember the first time when Trump ran and when Clinton ran. A lot of people, which made me irritated, said, "Well, I'm just not going to vote." I'm like, "Okay, then you vote the lesser of two evils. If that's your idea, you vote for somebody. You vote for somebody. You have to." People fought so that you could vote. Get out and vote. You vote for someone.
This
There's
is
got to be
one thing I totally
something.
agree with you on. I think it's really
Yeah.
important to vote. I do disagree with how you're voting, but I do think it's incredibly important to vote because we want people who are genuine in politics. Now, I think a lot of people will take and see the corruption that exists within our society, and they'll take that as a reason to not involve themselves because there's so much horrible stuff that exists within our society. But I say take that as motivation to involve yourself so that there's a greater culture that is involved in this that is actually better. And
Well,
if
I
I
tell
use that same
people,
argument as well, I wouldn't be running these live streams right now.
sure. I think the people who are out here moaning and groaning and griping and I don't like this part. I don't like Trump. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like Obama. I don't like Biden. Well, you don't get to say anything if you didn't vote. If you don't vote, you keep your mouth shut. You say nothing. If
Well,
you're voting, okay, then you can say,
I do think that someone can change over time. Say they didn't vote in the past, but now they changed their mind and they're like, okay, I've changed my mind, and I think that they can make sense in saying it. So I think that there's a point of
mhm.
saying that. But then I do think that there's another point to say that, like, yes, you should go out there and vote. And if you are saying that voting isn't effective, then you shouldn't be, obviously making that argument because it's not justified in reason, right? If
Mhm.
if if it
Mhm.
was the case that voting didn't matter at all, why would there be all these campaigns specifically that are trying to restrict people from voting? Why would there be all these campaigns specifically to get people to go out and vote? Why would they spend so much money on all of these particular advertisements to get people to vote? If voting did not matter, none of that would ever happen.
Okay,
They
now
wouldn't
you
be
opened up.
buying
Let
these
me.
elections.
So here's something you just brought up for me. I'm glad you brought this up. So maybe someone who's listening will say something, and I'm just curious about this. So this whole thing about voter ID, which Texas is really strong for voter ID. We should have voter ID, and I'm sick and tired of hearing people tell me that that is keeping people from voting. It will not keep people from voting. I
Yes, it
absolutely
will.
know okay, see, I love this because even right now, someone who is much younger than me, they cannot get a driver's license, but they went and got their Texas ID. Okay. There's always someone that can get there is a form of ID. There are ways that you can vote. Someone just got married. There's a way you can still vote. You can
So
take your
can I
driver.
explain? Can I explain?
No, go
So
ahead. Go right ahead.
yeah, so there already is identification required to be able to register to vote in the first place. But if you specifically require it in the manner in which they're trying to ask for it to be required, there are going to be married women that literally cannot vote
No, that's
because of
wrong. That's
differences
wrong.
in the ability to be able to get documents in some circumstances, right? That
What is
is
the
a fact.
circumstance you cannot do that? I remarried. I got my information. So tell me, and I'm not arguing, but just express to me how is it that a woman cannot go get how? Because all I would have to do is take my old information with my new information to show what I've done. My marriage license, she has a marriage license because she got married.
I'm not saying it's not possible in all circumstances.
See, that's the key. It's
I'm just saying that it restricts access to voting when it shouldn't be in the
how,
first place
how. I'm
because of
so
the
glad you
fact that
said that
there
because I
are,
need someone to explain it.
yeah,
It
because
makes
people
no
need to
sense to me.
pay to be able to get extra documents that they didn't have prior, right? And they specifically literally have limitations in terms of being able to go out and get them in the first place. the extra steps that you're creating for them to be able to vote when they clearly already are a citizen is obviously going to restrict them from voting.
How are they driving? How are they doing all the other things needed in life to get by? But yet voting is
So
the
think
one
about it this way.
thing. I
Do you
don't
think a poll
understand
tax would be okay?
a poll tax.
Yeah, a tax on poll,
I don't
on
know.
voting. Like
I
people
don't
might
know.
be able to pay a few dollars to vote. That might be allowed in order to keep, quote unquote, keep the functions of voting continuing to happen, but it would restrict
When
people
was that
from being
ever
able to
brought?
vote. Well,
I've
it was
never even
actually
heard.
determined by courts to be literally racist in application. I'm not trolling.
I've never even heard that brought up anywhere. That's why I'm sitting here just thinking. I
Well, the point
didn't
I'm making
even.
is that like we live in America, we want to incentivize people to vote to a greater extent. And if we see something here that's restricting people from voting, and it's not really preventing undocumented immigrants from voting, then I don't understand what the point is. Because again, there's only been 10 cases of undocumented immigrants voting like in the past 40 years. It is not a big risk to our system. So I don't understand why we'd want to restrict millions of people from
But
being able to vote because we're making it even harder for them to vote, literally for a concern that's not even present.
so let me
Because
go
why
back
would an
again. This may
undocumented
set.
immigrant risk being deported by trying to vote in
But
our
they
elections?
have. But they have. There
Like
have
10
been those
cases over the past
people.
40 years.
But there's been some in Texas through the years too. I can't obviously
Wait, that's
blurt them
10
out to you
across
at
the
this
entire nation.
very. Oh, I think it's a lot more than that. I believe it to be a lot more than that. I just
I
don't
would
have
love
it
to
here in
see a
front of
source
me.
for that. Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could find it. Because if I could, I would bring it back to you. How about that? If I could find it, I'd bring it back to you. But I just, that, I find it, to me, I find it to be, and I hate to use the word racist because I hate that word, but I do find that very tacky to say that there are people that can't, they're just not capable. They're just not capable. I find that to be so ugly. I find that to be so ugly. And I think that women are very capable of getting married, getting their paperwork, because there's other things you have to do. You have to have your paperwork to get through life, but somehow when it comes to voting, you're just not capable of doing that. And I find that crazy. I find that absolutely crazy. But see, these are things that we all, again, these are things we all should be talking about. And I love to hear other people's point of view. I love to hear other people's point of view. I just find this, I find it, I don't know. I don't know what keeps that from people from going and getting their paperwork. You get a job, you get there's so many things you have to have. You have to have it for other things. But for some reason, anyone can just walk in if they choose and vote and never be questioned.
That's just
If
not
that be
true.
the
No one can just walk in and vote. You have to register to vote. In order to register to vote, you have to have proper
mm-mm.
identification to
I
be able to
do
register to
know,
vote.
well, I can give you an example. My mother, who she passed away 2 years ago, but the 2 year, well, was a year before, she did a mail in, which she had never done that before. She had done a mail in prior that year for the very first time, and she did her voting and sent it in. But then later on that year, she got a second one. She was an example of that. She did call, who I think would have been the county clerk, whoever it was. She did contact them. They said, "Oh, just go ahead and throw it away." She was shocked. Whoever it was she talked to, they said, "Oh, that's okay. Just go ahead and throw it away." And she's like, "Why am I throwing this away? I mean, that didn't even seem, there was
You could
something along
wait,
those
wait,
lines.
wait. Did you look into it and ensure it's the exact same thing that they sent twice?
It's been so many years, and I can't remember what. I
So
don't even
it very
remember
well could have
now.
been a different election, or it could have been a second thing sent for like a referendum, for example. That's one thing it
I
could
mean,
have
you make
been.
a very good point. It's
Two,
it's
it could have been
been
a technical error. Like, by the way, technical errors like this doesn't mean that there's enough issues with an election to say that the election can be overturned. So what we have to look at is, are these risks credible enough to say that we should be restricting people in any meaningful way? Because we don't want to restrict people from voting, right? We want
no, I
people to
hear
go out
you.
there and vote. We want it to be accessible, very accessible for people to be able to vote. So unless there's really good
Sure.
concerns, there's really no good reason to create all of these extra restrictions when already we have a process to ensure that people have to have identification to register to vote. So I think it's just like
I,
an unnecessary process. If we could ensure that everyone could be able to vote while ensuring that we have voter ID, would we want to do that? Sure, I could think we could agree upon that. But I think that like I don't think there's like a policy that they've advocated for that would ensure that accessibility would be increased.